So I'm pasting something in the chat.
Okay.
You need to tell me the output for this.
Sure.
Can you see this?
Can I copy this on a notepad?
Yeah. You can share your screen as well.
Yes, yes, yes. I'll share it. So here it call in M2B.
Are you sure?
Yes, because like we create a object of B, it's a reference of A only. But when we are calling A dot M2, because object is of B type B, it call this in M2B.
There will be compile time error. Can you tell me why there
Oh,
is
okay,
compile
okay,
time
okay.
error?
Sorry. I missed. I didn't check if the M2 is not in the class A, because like A is referencing a B, but that M2 is not in the A when we call it A dot M2. So because the object is resolving at the runtime, but at the compile time it check the A class where and try to find the M2 method, and because of that it will give compile time error. Sorry, I missed. M2 is not present in class A.
So let's take another example. So can you tell me the output of this program?
Okay, just let me copy this. The problem is here also. It will give us a exception. Give us a error because like in a child class we can only lower exception we can throws, not the higher one, not the parent exception of the exception that we declare already in a parent class.
Are you sure?
Yes, so it's a like property. Like if parent class doesn't have any throwing declare or throwing any exception, then in child class we can throw only unchecked exception. If any parent class throwing any exception or declaring any exception, then in a child class only base or lower exception or subclass sub exception of that exception class we can throw.
So is this case is about checked exception or unchecked exception?
So this is a case of unchecked exception.
Unchecked exception. So your rule of overriding the exception, does it apply on the checked exception or unchecked exception? That's what I want to know.
The rule is applied on unchecked exceptions when uh, parent class is not throwing any exception. But if parent class is throwing any exception, then rules applied on both.
Do you have any IntelliJ or STS? I mean, any IDE in your computer? Let's try
Yes.
this.
So it's not giving any compile time error, and because it's not giving any compile time error, then as I said, like when because like A is having M1 method also, so that's why it's not giving a compile issue. For that also, it's not giving compile error, and when we run it, so at the runtime, the object of B is referencing by A. So because object of B is referencing by A, so object of class B method M1 will call, and that's why it fits in M1B.
First of all, about the rule of overriding the exceptions, exception
Mm-hmm.
hierarchy in the case of overriding, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that rule is for compile time exceptions, but here we have runtime exception. Both array index out of bound and index out of bounds are runtime exception. So
Right.
that rule won't work here.
Okay. Maybe
So that is the
I
main
got
thing.
confused.
I think it was just for confusion that because right now everybody will think, everybody know that there is the exception hierarchy we need to follow in the case of overriding. And in which technologies of Java you have experience?
So in Java currently we are using Java 8 as for Java language, and then Spring Boot, REST, and Hibernate and Kafka.
Hibernate and Kafka.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So can you tell me what do you understand by continuous integration and continuous deployment?
Yeah, continuous integration. What I understand is like we use for continuous integration is Jenkins. Whenever we commit our code, it with the help of Jenkins scripts, it should get built and deploy on the desired environment. So for continuous integration, we are using Jenkins, in which like with the help of Gradle from Git repository, we'll fetch the code and build it and create a required var or jar. And for deployment purpose, we give because like our product is used by multiple customers. So some customer wants anywhere install or some customer wants Docker image. So based on customer requirement, we'll provide them.
Okay. So do you have experience on microservices?
No, don't have actually current because like our product is on premise. So most of the customers, almost all customers are of us are not on the cloud. So currently we are not on a microservice. But yeah, because like nowadays many industries and like need microservice developers and they are moving towards the microservice and cloud. So when
Okay.
self
Okay, no problem.
learning
So
it.
do you have like understanding about microservices?
Yes, I have a little bit understanding. I have a little bit what pattern it is using, how it is working, but yeah, didn't get exposure to work on it and don't know all the components of it. But currently, because like I'm self-learning, so how much I learn from that, I know okay, what is microservice, where to use, where to not use, and how it works.
Okay. Okay, so if you got a chance to work with microservices, like, are you ready for that?
Yeah, definitely. Even I'd love to work on that because it's a demanding technology, and if I'll get a chance, definitely I'll work on it.
Okay, great. Great to hear that. Coming to like first core Java.
Okay.
So can you tell me why the main method is static in Java?
Yeah. So like the main method is static because static method is loaded when the class is loaded. If we don't make it static, then there is no trigger point from where we can create any object or call the method. So that's why we make uh, public static void main method as a static. So that whenever our application runs our class main class are load, that time that method get called.
Okay, and can we override a private method in Java?
No,
Okay.
no, we can't.
What is a blank final variable in Java? Uh,
Sorry,
blank final variable.
blank final variable. I'm not sure. Final variable, I know to make any variable constant, we can use final keyword.
Okay, so suppose you declare a final variable, but you haven't assigned any value in that.
Okay, I
So
don't
what
think
will happen?
it gives us. I think it gives an error because like it asks for initialization of that.
Okay, are you sure it will give the error? Compile time error, I think. Huh? You're
I think
talking
so. Yeah.
about compile time error?
Yes, I'm thinking so. Yes. Or
So,
if it's not gives an error, then by default, like in if it's a class member variable, then by default, like if it's an integer, it initialized by 0, and if it's a string and all, it initialized by null. So then might be the default that default value is initialized on it, and that becomes final.
okay. How the Java object stored in the memory? Can you like tell me?
Yeah, so objects are stored in a heap area. So whenever we create any object into a Java, the space allocated into a heap. and then our reference is pointing to that area.
Okay. So, what Java 8 features you have used till now?
Yeah, so mainly I use the lambda expressions, streams. Mainly I've used that, but yeah, and also a functional interface. But if you talk about what all are the features introduced in Java 8, then they are like default entity matter into an interface, an optional class, streams, what we say, lambda expression functional interface. Apart of that, for memory performance, like in a hash map, previously we were using a linked list, but now they have introduced a linked list plus red black tree, so to increase the performance and all. So these are the new features that are included into a Java 8.
Okay. In Java 8, have you used Stream API?
Yes.
Okay. So I will give you a scenario. So suppose we have a list of having all the mobile numbers, different mobile numbers. So you need to find out the customers which are having mobile number starting with +91. So how do you
Okay.
do that in Stream API?
So first of all, I'll stream over the list. Then I use filter method, filter intermediate method in that, and then in the filter method, I because like it's a +91, so definitely it is a string. So in the filter method, I'll put the condition where that string will start with +91, and then I'll get all the numbers those started with the +91. It's again a string, so with the use of terminal operator, either by like using a collect, I'll collect it on a other list.
Okay. Okay, and suppose you have a list of strings, different strings. So how do you concat all the strings, create a single string out of that using Stream API?
Sorry, I didn't get your question. Could you please repeat it again?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So you have a list of strings,
List of strings, okay.
okay, and you need to create a, a concatenation of all the strings,
Okay.
okay, and
Concatenation of all the strings means I have to create a single string
yeah,
with concatenate all the values of the list.
yeah, yeah, correct.
Yeah. So for that, I use like string builder, and I'll stream over the list, and again I'll use map function. In the map function, or even I don't need to use the map function. I'll just use the for each, and I'll append all the strings with the help of string builder, and then I'll return that string builder.
Okay, good. Okay, so what is the use of functional interface in Java 8?
Yeah, so functional interface, we can say it's a reference of lambda expressions which
Mm-hmm.
have a single abstract method, and which tells like this functional interface have only one responsibility. So by to reference a lambda expression, we use a functional interface.
Okay, so what is predicate in terms of functional interface?
A predicate is also a functional interface which have multiple methods and with the help of
Okay,
like it has methods like and, or, negate, test. So by using those methods, we pass the value and get the required result.
have you used any design patterns while coding?
Yes.
Yeah, which one?
So project only, I've used factory pattern, builder pattern, singleton pattern, and the lister pattern.
Okay, so tell me about a builder pattern. What is the use of
Yeah.
that, and how you create a code
Sure.
which uses
Sure.
builder.
So, build dependent is used when we are getting a constructor telescoping problem where like we have many fields and we need to we need to initialize the object with the help of constructors. But because like whenever we add a new field or we don't want to initialize all the values, then we need to make so many constructors uh, for that. So in that case, we can use a builder pattern where like we'll create a builder. So for creating it, what we did, we'll create one static class inside our project class for which we want to in which we have so many fields of we want to initialize the object of which of a class. In that class, we'll create one static builder class where we have the same fields, same as the class, and in that we'll initialize the field and
Sorry, I
return
can't.
the build method, which hello,
Yeah. So
am I audible?
your voice was breaking in between. Okay,
Oh,
right
sorry.
now it is fine. You can continue.
Yeah. Yeah, so I said about the builder pattern. So builder pattern is used whenever we have a telescoping problem, constructor telescoping problem, where we have so many fields and we need to initialize the object using a constructor. But because of like it has so many fields, even we can add more fields in that. Then again, we need to create a new constructor with those fields. So like we create a static class inside a class, a builder class. We can create a static builder class inside a class, and it that builder class also have the same number of fields. And whenever we initialize any field value, it return a builder object. And in that also we have a one build method which which is used by the our parent class or actual class to in the as a constructor, where we use of that we and assign the values of the actual class. So what help we get with that is like we don't need to write so many constructor of that parameterized constructor of that class. With the help of builder, we can easily initialize whatever the variables we want to initialize, whatever the fields we want to initialize.
Okay. So how the security is managed in your application?
Actually, we have a combination of multiple products in our Unica suite. So its security is handled by one already existing product, but I go through it how it is working. So what we did, like whenever any user register or log into our product, we'll create a one token ID, and then that token ID we kept in a local cache and give it to the client. And whenever client make any request to our server for any resource, we'll he need to pass that token ID to us, and we'll check that token ID whether that token ID is valid or not. If it's valid, then we'll return the resource to them.
Okay. So do you know anything about O 2.0 JWT token?
JWT token I know, and OAuth I know. OAuth 2.0 I didn't read, but yeah, JWT and OAuth I'm aware. So if we talk about JWT, here we have one authentication server, one resource. Now am I audible?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm telling about the JWT. So what we did with the JWT, we have a one authenticate server, one resource server, and a client. So whenever we make a request, so and pass the credentials, it goes to the authentication server. Authentication server gives us a token, and that token has like it's an encrypted token which have digitally signed values also. So with the help of that token, we make a request to the resource server. That resource server, because like it's a digitally signed token, so it's a contact between authorization server and resource server. Like authorized server digitally signed the key with the private key, and resource server has public key of that. So whenever a client make a request with that token, resource server validate whether it's a valid token or not. If it's a valid token using a public key, it validate it. If it's a valid token, it return back the resource. Otherwise, it says invalid request.
In your application, are these endpoints are RESTful endpoints?
Yes.
How the structure is there?
Yeah. So if I tell you about my the overall product structure, so we have a UI developed on a Angular, and we have a web server and the engine part. So what actually is happening, UI make a REST request to our web server, and then web server is communicating with the engine through Kafka. And engine, we have a multiple services, because like our product is a kind of flowchart, just like we have a pane in which we can drag and drop any component. So same here in our product, we have a flow, a canvas where we can drag and drop any required component and make a flow chart. So for each component we have a services. So in engine we have a multiple services which are communicating through each other through orchestration layer with the help of Kafka.
So are you using any kind of tool to drag and drop and create
No,
this
no,
flow chart?
no. So we use like our UI team has created a Angular, and with the help of Angular and React, it's on flow, canvas and components. So we are not using any third-party tools for that.
Okay, but like how do they work? So when you drag and drop, so automatically they will create any API. How do they work?
No, no. So like we have a predefined components. Like I'll tell you, delay, decision dispute, engagement dispute. These are the let's suppose email, SMS. These
Hmm.
are the components.
Hmm.
So whenever we have a start and end point by default into a canvas. So whenever someone drag email to the canvas, that email will attach to the start and end. Then someone fetch the decision script, which decision script, it means it's a check the whether condition is true or not. If it's true, then it pass the value to yes path, otherwise on a no path. It's like a conditional component. So that also attached to the flow, that start and end point. So that is how we create a flow chart. Now what we did, like whenever our flow chart is completed, we'll publish it. That comes in a JSON format. We create one format in which they'll tell us what is the starting point, then what will from the starting point what component is attached, from that component what component is attached. So we have all the branching into that. So that branching will get into a JSON, and by parsing it, we'll put into a one cache. We use for that Ignite cache, Apache Ignite cache, and then whenever we save it and put some data into that, a request come to a engine to process it. So what engine does, like it checks, okay, this is the starting point. Orchestration's layer check on a cache. What's the starting point? It finds, let's suppose email is the starting point. Then orchestration send the request to email service to process that. Once email service done its job, it tells to orchestration layer that my job is done. Then again orchestration goes to a cache and check from the email touch point what the next touch point is attached. Then next component is attached. Then it find out what would be the next component.
Hmm.
Let's suppose it's a decision split. Then orchestration send that required input to the decision split service through Kafka. Then decision split service done their job, and then send back the result to the orchestration, like my job is done, please carry forward this. Then again same way orchestration find out what would be the next component. If there's no component, if it's the endpoint, then decision split update the then orchestration there update the status. So that is
Okay.
how the overall working is going on.
Okay. 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 So coming to Hibernate, do you
Mhm.
have experience in Hibernate, right?
Yeah, so in our product we are using Spring JPA and Hibernate as a ORM.
Okay. Good. So, uh, can you tell me the advantages of Hibernate over JDBC?
Yeah, yeah. So main advantage of the Hibernate is like as a Java developer, developer should know about the objects and the Java technology. But in a previous way, in a JDBC, he should know about the different database queries. If he want to use multiple database, then he need to know about all the syntax of all the databases. But here, with the help of Hibernate, he just more concerned about the how object are mapped through the relational like tables. So with the help of Hibernate, we don't need to worry about what database we are using, because like we use a JP queries or a directly object to say do the database operation. So it doesn't uh, we can say it's help to the developer. He just focus on a business logic uh, uh, and the about the object, not about the different database syntaxes and all. So it gives us an abstraction with the between a Java and the database. So in backend we can use any database. We just need to use the dialect of it and dependency of it, and we can easily work
Yeah.
with the help of Hibernate.
Okay. And what is session in Hibernate?
Session, we can say with the help of session only we'll connect to the database through which we'll create a transaction and would want to do any save, update, or any operation delete with the
Okay.
help of session.
Okay. So is it a thread safe? So session is a object, right? So is it a
Right.
thread safe object or not thread safe?
Okay. Let me think, because like we are using JPA, so uh,
Okay. So
I think it's a thread safe.
it's a thread safe.
Yes,
Okay.
I think.
So that means only one thread can get the data from session at one time. Is it correct
Right.
statement or wrong statement which I just said? One
Only
thread can
one
access
thread get.
data from the thread at one time.
No, it's not like one thread. One thread. We can make multiple sessions. So like suppose our multiple threads are running, and multiple threads are communicating through the database. So we can create as many as session we required and press the data at
No,
the
but
database side.
talking about only single one thread, and so is it possible to get the access the data simultaneously by multiple threads from that session?
From that particular session,
Yeah,
I don't think.
yeah. So that means it is not thread safe, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. What is lazy loading in Hibernate?
So lazy loading is like whenever we is there like, let's suppose a join between two tables, and whenever we want to fetch the data, so it will not fetch all the data, all the columns of the data on a first go. Whenever we required it at that time only, it fetch the data so that to increase the performance. Because like with the help of lazy loading, it just fetch the ID, and if we need other data of the join table, then we need to call it externally.
Okay. So have you used
Especially,
any in-memory databases as well?
no, we didn't use in-memory database, but we can use. We are using cache for that.
Okay. Okay. So and how you are testing your application?
So for testing our application, we have written some JUnit test cases where like, because like mostly currently I'm working on, previously I was working on a website, web server side. Currently I'm working on engine part. So we are mainly focusing on a Kafka and core Java functionality. So what we did, like we written a JUnit and create a dummy producer for our topic, and publish a data onto the topic, and then try to like check whether our function is properly working or not. Yeah, but because like our product is currently in a development phase, so we didn't use Mockito for that, but we can use Mockito also.
Okay, so you are not using Mockito?
No, currently we are not using
Okay.
Mockito to mock that
Okay, so how you are mocking any, how you are mocking
database.
or stubbing anything which is coming from either from server or from database?
So what currently we are not mocking it, so we are calling directly the database because like we can do a local testing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, we should
Okay.
mock it through Mockito, but currently we are not doing.
Okay, so you are not mocking and directly calling the database for the test cases as well. So is it the same database or separate database created just for test cases?
So because like we don't have a distributed or a common database, we all have a database in our local machine. So we created some dummy data into our database to test it, and we use the that database to test it.
Okay, and how you are writing your Apache Kafka, Kafka test cases?
So for the Kafka test cases, in the test class, we have the init method in which we provide the required properties of the Kafka producer, and we produce the message from the init method. And in that actual test method, we call our method, which is or we can say call our consumer, which is reading the message from that topic. So and do the functionality. So we check whether our actual method is reading the properly do the functionality or not, and get and then we fetch the required result, and using the asset we check whether required result is correct or not.
Okay, so you are not mocking anything. So how suppose you are writing test cases for the Kafka. So how do you do that? So are you mocking the Kafka listener or not doing that also?
No, no, we are not doing that also.
So I didn't get that. So how do you actually testing the Kafka related test cases or Kafka related functionality in your code?
Yeah, so we know okay, what message should be go into the Kafka,
Mm-hmm.
and what would be the when consumer read it, what would be the required result. So what we did whenever we write a test case, we have a init method in that where we create a new producer for the Kafka, and we pass that required message into the producer, and with the help of producer we publish into the topic, and our actual consumer, our actual method is listening on to that consumer, listening on to that topic, so that message is consumed by our actual consumer, where and it process the message, and we call that consumer through our uh, uh, test function
Okay. Okay.
to get required result and test it.
What is lazy loading or lazy initialization in Hibernate?
Yeah, so as I told you, like lazy loading is like whenever we have a join table, two tables as a join, and we want to fetch the data. So we don't want at the time of initialization only, we'll get all the data into the memory. So whenever we require the data, we call it explicitly. Not at the time of initialization only, we'll get all the data. So it's a lazy loading.
And how you are managing logging in your application?
So we are using log4j
Okay.
for logging the log for logging.
And which version of log4j you are using?
Uh, Not sure because like currently we all get vulnerability, so we upgraded it, but not sure. It's a global like the vulnerability base which is causing by the log4j. So
Okay.
we just upgraded it, but not sure.
Okay. So in log4j, so recently there was a vulnerability something related to log4j. What was that?
Yeah, so because of that vulnerability only we upgraded it. So I think that vulnerability is I think something like wherever we write
Yeah, tell me, what was the
hello,
log4j
yeah,
code vulnerability recently?
uh, uh, yeah, I'm not sure, but I think that that was like related to the script wherever we pass the script in the logging statement. Because of that script thing, someone can pass the any value to access the your resources. But yeah, not sure exactly, but it's something related to the script that we use in logging statements.
Have you used multi-threading?
Yes.
So how do you detect a deadlock in your code?
Detect a deadlock is like when our because we didn't get this problem till now, but yeah, I'm thinking of like whenever our two thread is continuously running up are long running and they are not processing, so that might be a case of deadlock. And then to resolve that, we need to check the code and check whether they are the sequence of the resource on which they are want to take a log is proper or not.
Okay. Can you tell me what are the different ways to create a thread?
Yeah, so we can create by the two ways in a Java. One is by extending a thread class. Other is by implementing a runnable interface. We can create a thread.
And which one is better?
It depends. Like whenever like in a you want multiple interfaces and we want to extend other classes, then we can use runnable interface. And with the help of if we are extending through the thread class, then it gives us a more functionality. Like it gives us a method of threads. So it depends how the how's your requirement. If you don't need to extend other class, then we can use thread class by extending thread class. If we need to extend some other class, then we can use interface, runnable interface to create a thread.
Okay. Okay, so what is locking in terms of thread?
So locking is like we can it's a like in Java we have two types of locking: class level lock and object level lock. So whenever any thread want to access anything and want no other thread can access that resource, then we use locking. And yeah, for that, in a synchronized block or method, we pass the what type of lock we want, either a class level lock or object level lock. Apart of that, in a Java, we have a one reintent lock concept also, where we use the in place of synchronize, we can use directly a reintent lock to get the lock, and once we done it, we'll unlock it.
Okay. So, and what is the difference between sleep and wait?
So sleep is like for that time period, thread gets sleep, so no further processing on it. In the wait, it goes to the we can say waiting state. Means in the sleep, whatever the time we define, after that time, threads will start their work. But in a wait, whenever we'll call a wait method, we need to notify it now resource is available. You can get a log, or you'll start working on it. So wait
Okay.
is an object class, and sleep is in a thread class method.
And have you used executor framework as well?
Yes. So whenever we using a thread pool, so for that we'll use the executor service, where we with the help of pool will get the thread and do the processing, and we use it because like we whenever we want a better performance, where like because once the thread does its job, it come back to a pool. We don't need to create or destroy a thread regularly. We can define how much thread we want in a pool, and with the help of those threads, we can do our job.
So how will you detect a memory leak in your application?
So memory leak is because of some any if we make a connection any make any connection open and any object which is not collected by the garbage collector. So for that we can use like a heap dump or thread dump. With the help of that, we'll check how many objects are creating of that and like of a particular class and how many threads are using it. So with the help of heap dump, we'll check whether is there any some chances of memory leak or not, and then we need to check whether we close all the required connections, whether we like we'll creating a new object and we'll properly initialize the objects or not. So that is how we'll check is there any chance of memory leak or not. If it's there, then we try to resolve that.